When it comes to PSP JRPGs, we all know which ones are the most popular and beloved out there. The next JRPGs are not hidden gems anymore, and they deserve the same amount of love and recognition some of the mainstream enjoy. So these are the 10 most criminally underrated JRPGs on the PSP. Let's begin! Number 10, Half Minute Hero. This is one of the funniest and coolest RPGs I've played in my life. It's also very short, with less than 10 hours of gameplay, but those are 10 hours I was addicted to it. The game revolves around a timer of 30 seconds in which you'll need to do everything. Grind, solve small puzzles, walk from point A to point B, and defeat the boss. Of course, you can enter small areas where you'll be able to recover all 30 seconds if you donate to the goddess. Yeah, that pseudo-benevolent goddess that's helping your main character across his journey. She's just here for the money, man. Battles are real-time and you have no control over them as your character moves and fights by himself. You'll be in charge of everything else though, which comes down to the time management. I love the creativity behind this game and behind every mission out there. It's something different each time and it keeps the gameplay fresh. I can't believe this game isn't more popular considering it's so fun to play. I guess it's because it's impossible to take it seriously as a role-playing game, which leads me to say it's criminally underrated. Number 9, The Legend of Heroes: A Tear of Vermilion. So, there's another trilogy of The Legend of Heroes besides Trails in the Sky on the PSP. No, these three games aren't connected. Vermilion was localized as if it was the first one because they probably thought it would be the only one. Prophecy of the Moonlight Witch was the second, and chronologically speaking, it is the second in the trilogy, but it was released first in Japan. Vermilion is its prequel. The third was Song of the Ocean, and it concluded this little interconnected series. You don't need to play one to understand the other, as they're all standalone titles that just take place in the same universe. I chose Vermilion for this video because out of the three, it's the best. The other two are fairly mediocre, still fun to play, but definitely not criminally underrated. So it's a turn-based RPG with pretty simplistic battle mechanics. The characters take a position depending on where they attack. So you can see how this is practically the beginning of that classic battle system in the Trail series. The story follows Alvin and Mile in a journey primarily to save Alvin's sister, but of course they end up involved in all sorts of dark plots and even a war. It stands out because it's darker and edgier with a more solid story, so give Vermilion a chance if you can, as it's quite good. Number 8, Khemia: Student Alliance. Originally released on the PlayStation 2, it is a direct port of it with some small additional improvements, including multiplayer battles. However, in terms of graphics and interface, the PS2 version is better, but it didn't make it to the PS2 video, so I decided to bring it up here on the PSP. It's part of the Eternia series, but it feels totally different. You control a group of students training to be alchemists, each for their own personal reasons. The protagonist, Vane, seems to have a really dark identity that not even he knows about. So the story will follow Vane and friends as little by little he keeps learning more and more about the harsh truth of his existence. The gameplay does, however, revolve around gathering items and synthesis, like the Atelier games. In fact, most of the main story missions involve doing just that. But the battle system in 2D is freaking amazing with some great features like switching characters mid-battle. Since synthesis also applies to skills and magics, having your characters perform them to create massive damage is so easy on the eye. This is a great game and fear not for its loading times, just install it on the PSP and problem solved. Number 7, Tales of Eternia. It It was on the PS1 video and it's back here again, cause this is the best version of it to play. It's criminally underrated on the PSP as well because barely anyone in North America played it at first. Why? Because the physical version was only released in Europe and Japan. Thankfully the PSP is region free and eventually all these continents got to play it in some way or another. In fact, it wasn't until this very same release that people finally knew its real name, Eternia. Remember how it was mistakenly localized as Tales of Destiny 2 on the PS1? This is the third main Tales game, cause the real Destiny 2 was developed and released after this. No, they're completely unrelated, no need to play Destiny 1 and 2 to understand Eternia, totally different worlds and stories, not connected. Alright, so 2D action RPG with slightly better controls than its PS1 original version, some graphic improvements here and there to adapt to the PSP engine. Overall, it's the same game, just with faster loading times and better interface. You can't go wrong with either version, which is why both made it to my underrated list. Number 6. Lunar Silver Star Harmony. Speaking about ports, here's the last one for the all-time classic Lunar, the Silver Star, and it is in my opinion the absolute best version of it to play. In fact, it's a full remake, not just a regular port. Story remained untouched from the PS1 release, but they added a new amazing feature, a small prologue containing the prequel to the series, where you actually get to control the legendary heroes named in the main story. The ones who fight the Dark Wizard Aphel and save the previous incarnation of the goddess Althena. The rest of the plot is still about Alex starting a journey with his love interest Luna to become the next Dragon Master. I say this is the best version to play, not only for its neat addition of that short intro. I love the sprites in the original versions, but here they look beautiful and I really like the animation style. Another important thing is the rebalanced difficulty. Original Sega CD version is overflowing with random encounters, decreased on the PS1 port, but some difficulty spikes were now there. This PSP remake fixed everything and made it way more balanced and therefore more fun to play. Underrated because not too many people seem to agree with me on this, as they still prefer the classic PS1 version over this one. Number 5. Phantasy Star Portable 1 and 2. In reality, these are Phantasy Star Universe 3 and 4, and they should have been called that way, but they named them Portable to attract more players to the series, and to emphasize that they were exclusive to the PSP. Both are a direct sequel to the other two games on the PS2, with the same characters from before, and some new ones here and there. A few months later, after the Seed alien invasion was thwarted, the Guardians, including your main customizable character, find out that nothing is over. Some really dangerous Seed remain and certain political figures seem to be involved. So starts the quest to put an end to it all once again. If you beat Portable 1 first, you can load your save data onto the sequel to play as him or her again. The story slightly changes to recognize your character as the previous member of the Guardians, but you can also create a whole new one if you want to. Battle system is preferably enjoyed more on the PS Vita, but these are on the PSN for whatever dumb reason, so if you don't want to emulate, you'll have to put up with the PSP joystick. Still, they're fantastic action RPGs with gameplay that truthfully progressed after the first PS2 games. The entire saga is criminally underrated and overshadowed by the online series, so that's why they're here. Number 4 is the Odin Felghana. Most people don't even know this game is actually a full remake of the original Ys 3. That one came out for the Super Nintendo, the Genesis, the TurboGrafx, and some PC consoles from the 90s. This remake is by far the best version to play of it, but be warned, it's still brutally unforgiving, even on easy mode. Not on super easy mode though, in case you want to cheese it. However, the European version is a walk in the park compared to the North American one for some reason. I played the PAL version on normal and I couldn't believe how easy it was. Anyway, adult Kristen is on a new adventure now that his friend Doggy invited him to his hometown. He reunites with an old friend, but her brother seems to be a part of something evil crafting within the Empire. Adel is set to put a stop to it all. Felghana is an overly addictive action RPG now fully in 3D, generally from a top-down view. The controls are superb and the combat feels so good, especially when you overcome the brutal challenges there are, like most of the bosses for example. More people need to play the Ys games. There's more on the PSP than just Ys 7, you know? Number 3. Fate Extra. Now that the Fate franchise has become way too popular for its own good, I can safely assume Fate Extra isn't that obscure anymore, especially not since a full remake was announced last year and we'll probably see it this one. Probably. Anyway, the game follows an extremely bizarre plot that centers around a fake virtual school, but with a real tournament, the classic tournament to get the Holy Grail to alter or destroy the virtual reality. But is it really virtual, or is it the real world? I love how the game lies to you at the beginning with a fake protagonist until you end up creating your own. All of this to grasp an understanding of how dark and twisted the plot will be. You'll choose one of the 3 available servants to train them for the tournament. Your grinding sessions will be bound by a daily program with a limited time to train. But don't worry, there's no timer during the dungeons. A rock paper scissors mechanic awaits you during its turn-based battles. You'll need to study and predict the enemy's movements to choose the best counter actions to win. I adore this battle system because the more you fight, the more you learn the enemy's patterns. I love this game, but you probably already knew that, so I don't think I need to explain why I think it's heavily underrated. Number 2. Growlanser, Wayfarer of Time. This is the most, or rather the only slightly popular game in the series. The rest of them are pretty much hidden gems. Wayfarer of Time gained some small mainstream attention because it sold more than the others, plus being available on the PSN, and with the PSP being region-free, it helped out a hell of a lot. The nightmares I had with this fucking great game. I adore its battle mechanics, the real-time strategy system with 4 playable characters in your party. I've praised the gameplay before, which also includes a bonding system for different character endings. I've bitched about its obscene difficulty, which varies depending on the type of missions and routes you get. So let me tell you instead about the story. Crevanil belongs to a mercenary group called Artenschwart. He and his pals are soon victims of a devastating event that tears the group apart. Angels are behind this devastation because they're tired of humanity being at war, but they want to wipe out every single last of them. So it's up to Crevanil and friends to find a way to stop them all. Because of its religious theme and dark atmosphere in war, it's a very well written story. And it's one of those where your decisions matters, so there's several routes to follow and several endings. And it's criminally underrated because it almost made it to the mainstream when it should have done so. Number 1. Jeanne d'Arc. There's one very legitimate reason why this game often appears on hidden gems videos or underrated lists. Because it is so goddamn good, that's why. But I still feel its popularity isn't enough to top the mainstream RPGs on the PSP. It follows an anime version of the French heroine Joan of Arc, sure. However, it does it as dark and tragic as the original old tale. Of course it involves magic and spells and monsters, but that was mainly introduced for gameplay purposes. So for starters, it's an excellent story, among the best in the PSP library of RPGs. This is a grid-based strategy RPG that will give you some Tactics Ogre vibes, but being its own thing at the same time. The main quest is to make Jeanne more powerful so she can lead the army during the war. She can transform into a being with holy armor for a short period of time. The rest of the battle mechanics are the usual as seen in most games of its kind, but I do want to point out the balance. It doesn't hold your hand, but it doesn't crush you either with the difficulty spikes. Not until you start nearing the end of the game, of course. Jeanne d'Arc, man, is probably the perfect definition of underrated. It's amazing and more people need to play it and know about it. And talk about it. What? Trails in the Sky? Underrated? Really? Don't you think it's very popular nowadays? Very thankfully? Yeah, right? It's very highly rated. Maybe overrated. So I guess my honorable mentions will be any of the other Ys games in existence on the PSP. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe, share this video with your friends. See you next time!